Hello, and welcome to Back Through the Lens, where two film school friends talk about movies through the haze of nostalgia. The good, the bad, and the ones that aren't quite how we remember them. I'm your host, Rachel, and with me is my co host, Joe. Today's movie, A League of Their Own.
Sky's clear and bright blue, and the sun is starting to warm the day. The smell of fresh cut grass, stamped dirt, and hot dogs circle our heads. The stadium is reverberating with the cluster sounds of hundreds of conversations happening all at once. Yet, Beer Guy still cuts through them like a fastball down the center. Only instead of sitting behind home plate or the first base line, we're in our favorite recliner watching a ragtag team of underdogs do the impossible.
So, you came up with this episode topic. I have to admit, I'm not really into sports, so.
I'm vaguely into sports. I'm a home team rooter. I'm not a statistician. I don't know every player on the bench.
Mhm.
But I feel like there are lots of good films that show underdogs for different sports. But it is summertime and it's baseball season. And I feel like it fits in.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I will admit I didn't have too many to choose from because I am not so much a sports person. I've not seen a whole ton of sports movies.
Fair.
But one particular movie came to mind immediately. So it is A League of Their Own, directed by Penny Marshall, released July 1st, 1992, rated PG. If you're not familiar with A League of Their Own, too many men are off fighting World War II, so a bigwig chocolate company owner decides to start a women's baseball league in order to entertain everyone back in the States. The main story centers around Gina Davis's character Dottie, the star of the league, and her younger sister Kit, who always feels like she's in Dottie's shadow. Tom Hanks is also here as a washed-up former ball player who is brought in to coach Dottie and Kit's team.
I like
Here's
how it says Tom Hanks is also here.
gotta point out when Tom Hanks is around,
Right.
but he's not the star.
No, I don't think so.
Mm-mm. According to my DVD, he is less of a star than Madonna because she got second billing.
I think that's kind of accurate, though, for this movie.
I guess. I'm trying to think of how popular he was and how popular she was in 1992, but they were probably both pretty big.
Yeah. I'm thinking of like roles in this film, though.
Oh, well, yeah, but usually it's not based on the size of the role. It's like whoever has the bigger name.
Right.
So,
Huh.
But also Madonna over, was it Lori Petty who plays Kit?
Well, there's your argument about bigger names.
There you go. Yep.
You win some, you lose some, I guess. I don't know.
I don't remember exactly the first time I saw this. It was on cable all the time growing up, and I know like my parents would always stop and watch it. So I remember watching bits of it with them. I know I eventually sat down and watched the whole thing through in one sitting. Probably not till I was in like high school or something. I probably rented it from the library because I would just go to the library on the weekends and like rent a bunch of movies I hadn't seen before.
My first time, I don't know. I remember seeing, chunks of it on TV, younger ages, 8 to 10 to 12 or whatever. I think the first actual viewing, probably watched it with my grandmother. This is the same grandmother that didn't let me see Jurassic Park. And I remember, I didn't know a lot about what happened in this film because I remember asking, like, did this actually happen? Like, I didn't know. I don't
Mhm.
know. We didn't learn about this in history class for World War II about the women's baseball league.
We didn't even learn about World War II, so.
Oh, that's fair. Last viewing, it's been a while. I don't remember the last time I saw it all the way through prior to this episode. Again, it does seem to play on cable more particularly in the summertime, or maybe I'm just misremembering, but I think I've sat down and watched a good chunk of it last summer. It came on TBS, I think, and like I was doing stuff around the house, sat down, watched a good chunk of it, and like continued doing chores. It does draw you in when it's on, though, or draw me in personally, I should say.
Yeah. Well, it's funny you ask if this really happened. I was doing a little bit of research after watching it for this episode, and there was a women's league.
Mm-hmm.
It's a long acronym that I don't remember, so sorry about that. From what I understand, baseball was not completely shut down. It's more so that they took players from the minor leagues to fill in gaps, and it kind of destroyed the minor leagues in the country. But they still did have this women's league. It was started by Philip Wrigley, which is a name you might be familiar with. Wrigley Stadium, also Wrigley's Gum. That's
Yeah.
apparently why the owner, Walter Harvey, in the movie owns a chocolate bar company. It's a little nod to that, I guess.
Sure.
But from what I understand, the women's league was actually fairly popular because there were so many smaller towns that like couldn't get broadcasts or like radio of the bigger games. So it actually was a pretty popular pastime for people to go watch the women's league, especially once the minor leagues kind of dried up.
So it replaced more of the minor leagues than the major leagues.
Correct, yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So it still didn't last too long. That part is true.
Hmm.
But the idea that it was seen as a joke is not true because there were a lot of people in more rural areas that like this is how they had access to watching sports,
Right.
which makes
And
sense.
like our first three female ball players come from those kind of areas.
Correct. Yes. That's something we'll get into as well. Apparently, it's not necessarily one for one on women ball players who inspired characters in the movie, but we'll talk about that. My first note is so silly, but I feel like I just got this wave of nostalgia when Columbia Pictures came across the screen and you see this like kind of not super crisp shot of this house that we find out is Dottie's house. Gina Davis's character is an older woman, but I don't know. There's something about you can tell that this was shot in the early 90s before like 4K or whatever.
Right.
And I don't know. I feel like opening credits, especially certain studio logos, make me feel like I'm a kid watching a movie again, probably because that's what was producing things when I was younger.
Yeah. Absolutely.
I don't
I
know if
mean,
that makes.
we've no, it does. We've talked
Okay.
about that in the past with like even movies from before we were born, like The Apartment. Um,
Mhm.
we made jokes about the title scroll with Batman Forever.
Right.
But even like logos, I failed to mention this for Jurassic Park, but it's hard not to think of Universal and Jurassic Park because just it happens right away as far as the film goes. And anytime I see that, I kind of am brought back to that movie. But yeah, I mean that's how nostalgia works, right?
Right. You have a question in here. Is Gina Davis doing a voiceover on the older version of her? Yes, she is.
Okay.
The actress that is playing the older version of Gina Davis looks so much like Gina Davis that I really thought it was her in makeup. I had to go look it up.
Same.
Um, yeah, from what I understand, none of the actresses were aged. It's all totally different actresses. But for Gina Davis's character in particular, they did a voiceover.
Which I thought was so at the beginning it's fine, but then I don't want to get ahead too much, but at the end, she's the only one, and it's when it's just her in the rewatch, it was not off putting, but I was like, wait, this doesn't match. The voice doesn't match the elderly woman, and I think also it physically doesn't match some of the like syncing up. Like there's some cuts where they
Mhm.
cut away from her because I think it just was not in sync.
Yeah.
And it also doesn't sound like it was recorded on set. Like there's a different tone. I don't know.
Hmm.
It threw me off, but because she is cast in a way that looks like Gina Davis, it's I wasn't sure because I'm like, wait, is this? Or maybe it's still
Yeah.
Gina Davis in makeup, but they didn't have the right recording and she had to redo it.
Hmm. And I did not notice this at all. So I'm interested to watch this again. First of all, knowing it's a voiceover, but then also seeing if I can notice what you saw here.
I had to look this up on IMDb, and older Dottie, who we're talking about, is played by Lynn Cartwright. And I
Mhm.
only bring that up because on her IMDb page, um, ma'am, ma'am, she is a very, very attractive lady. So it definitely like looks like I can see why they pair her for Gina Davis too. Like the photo they use is from, I don't know, 1940, 50 something, I don't know. But yeah, just shout out to Lynn Cartwright. Go her.
Yeah, I'm gonna look her up now. Like I saw her name come up, but I didn't go through her like acting history. Yeah, she is very striking, and I in the same way I think that Gina Davis is too,
Right.
just like the cheekbones and yeah. Okay, I gotcha. I had to see what all the fuss was about, though.
Good casting.
Okay, well, yes, good casting either way, because this lady looks like Gina Davis in just some aging makeup.
Yeah. The smile too, as she does. It's like it
Hmm.
was so. I was convincing myself it was Gina Davis, even though I'm like, no, it's not. But is it? It could
No,
be.
I same. Because
So
I've never looked too much into this movie until we were going to be talking about it here, and I really was like, no, it is her. No, it's not her. Like back and
hmm
forth the whole time.
yeah,
Another.
we have that outside shot, like you said, of the house as they're leaving because Dottie's daughter convinces her to go somewhere. This reunion that we're having, right? That we don't know too much about yet, and they
Mhm.
show them leaving. It's whatever song they start playing, I just am not a fan of. It just, I don't know. It doesn't seem to fit, or it's too. I don't have the words. I just was like turned off by it, and I know this person I mentioned didn't make this song, but at the same time, what pops up on the screen as I'm literally thinking in my head to note how much I don't like this song and this scene, and it says music by Hans Zimmer. I was like, oh, hmm, all right, sorry, Hans.
Yeah. Now, was this a score or was this like an
No, it was a
actual
song. I can't
okay.
remember the song. I literally just watched it, and it's already blacked out of my mind.
Although speaking of songs we don't like, Madonna had this big single connected to A League of Their Own called This Used to Be My Playground, which plays on the credits.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I feel like it doesn't match the
Yeah,
movie. Like the tone of it doesn't match the movie. Maybe the lyrics do, to be fair. I have not really listened to the like I haven't paid attention to
yeah.
the lyrics outside of the title.
So if we're jumping all the way to the end real quick, yes, I agree. And this song at the beginning reminds me of that Madonna song because it's just that like really soft kind of blah blah blah, and like I want to get amped up. And the lyrics do fit. The Madonna lyrics fit the end because it's showing the retired baseball players at like
Hmm.
grandma ages kind of playing a little like skirmish.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I get it. It used to be my playground, and haha, and it's like very reminiscent. But the tone of the music and just her voice is like, I want to go to sleep. I want to be excited watching these girls play.
Right. Yeah, and that's I think what bothered me is the note that we end the movie on is like all these women just being excited to see each other again and reminiscing. And yes, there's obviously some like, a tinge of sadness, some like
Hmm.
melancholy, but over the credits, we're seeing them play baseball together and they're having a great time. And a lot of them are still like really good, super active, and they're just having fun. And then you have this downer of a song.
Yeah.
But yeah, supposedly this song, I guess it was nominated for, best song at like movie awards, Golden
Oh
Globes
wow.
specifically. I don't know about the Oscar, but
Maybe that's why she gives above Tom Hanks credit on the DVD. He did make a song for the film.
Jesus. Oh, Lordy. I mentioned that, we open with this newsreel explaining that baseball might be shut down because of the war and, setting us up to the little bit of history that brings us to this point. I had a note, though, that this was funny to me watching back because they're kind of getting to the seriousness of, we have so many people serving in World War II, so many men specifically, that, major league sports might be shut down. And when COVID first hit,
Mm.
I specifically remember friends telling me they weren't really, too concerned until basketball was shut down. And if I remember correctly, that was mid March. So, like, March Madness was going on, probably. Not that I know sports that well. I know March is a thing. Um, a friend of mine had tickets to like a Cavs game and it got canceled. And I remember that being specifically like basketball being canceled. People were like, "Oh, okay. So this is like a real
Hmm.
threat maybe." And then also just kind of funny that from what I can remember, Tom Hanks was the first celebrity to publicly like talk about having COVID. Like I think he got it pretty early on.
Yeah, it sounds familiar. Yeah.
I remember it literally being compared to when Rock Hudson admitted to having AIDS,
Oh, geez.
which I think is like not quite the same thing,
No.
but there was this idea of like, I don't know, Tom Hanks being like everyone's favorite actor, like maybe that brings the, I don't know, threat of COVID home to
Yeah.
you. I don't know. I don't know. But
The point you're getting at, though, I totally understand because I didn't even think about that. That's a good connection. Now that I'm replaying it, rewatching it the other night in my head, yeah, there was a little bit of familiarity to me, but maybe not because I've seen this movie before. Maybe I'm having a little bit of flashback to when our world got shut down in our own way.
yeah.
That's
Yeah.
a
And
it's a good comparison.
thank you. I try.
During the newsreel, they're kind of talking about how baseball is being shut down because the players are serving their country, and they go over a couple players real quick, and it's just nice that they mentioned Bob Feller trading in
hmm
his. I think they said that his Cleveland Grays for navy blue or something like that.
Yeah.
Either way, they mentioned Bob Feller and Cleveland, which is kind of cool.
Yeah. I always love a Cleveland shout out.
Hmm.
We have this opening introduction to Dottie and Kit, the two sisters who are like our main characters here. And all I could think was like to be fair, they're playing in like kind of a rinky dink like park, right? But
Yeah,
it's so much more intimate. Like there are still plenty of seats. Obviously not compared to like a major league baseball stadium today, but I almost wish you could go see a game in this sort of environment where you could actually see the players and it's like a little more intimate and like I don't know. I just remember when I was younger going to Indians games and the only seats we could afford were like so far away. We had to bring binoculars, like we couldn't even see the ball. And it just like I did not care to be there. Like I don't know. It was just like I'd rather just watch us on TV then. And
yeah.
I understand this was not an option for people in the 40s, but I went to a minor league game recently. My son had won tickets through a raffle, and it was a much smaller park, and we had
Hmm.
so much fun. Like, do I know any of these players? No. Do I really care who wins this minor league game? Not really. But it was a lot more fun. We could really see what was going on and, like, I don't know, understand the plays. And for someone like me who's like not super into sports, like, I like being able to understand, like, tactical decisions.
Yeah. I mean, you get the intimacy, like you said,
Mhm.
and you're kind of forced to pay attention more because
Mhm.
a it's smaller, so watch out for foul balls.
Yeah.
You don't want to get beamed with one, but there's less distractions as well.
Yes.
Like the stadium's huge. There's a lot of great things to check out at the stadium where the Guardians play, different
Mhm.
restaurants, and all this cool stuff that they put in there to bring more people in, which is fine. It's a different atmosphere and feel, and that's why we go to that, or it's why we go to the Captains for a smaller field and
Mhm.
just to kind of relax and watch baseball for baseball's sake, and price
Yeah.
friendly.
Of course, yes. But yeah, so back to our movie. It's already pretty clear that Dottie is a really good ball player, really the star of the show, even though not, not that many people around. I understand this. They live in like rural Oregon, I think. But we can already see that Kit, her kid sister, is also, she feels that she is in the background. It is true that maybe she's not quite as good of a ball player, But she even has a line that she says to Dottie that supposedly their parents even introduced them as, "This is our daughter, Dottie, and this is our other daughter, her sister."
Yeah. Yeah, there's definitely the chip on the shoulder of the younger sibling with Kit.
Hmm.
And they make her sound and look like a, kid sister the entire film.
Oh yeah, for sure. She is like kid sister personified. And
Mm-hmm.
also like Kit is a really good kid sister name, I feel.
Oh yeah.
I did learn that Brooke Shields was apparently originally attached to play Dottie. A few years before it actually got made, there was a writer's strike, I guess, in the late 80s, and that put everything on pause. And by the time they got things back together, she wasn't available. Deborah Winger was signed on and was all ready to go for the role of Dottie. She left. You want to know why she left?
Yeah, yes.
Take a wild guess.
Um, it's not COVID.
It's not COVID.
No, I don't know why she went to go play real baseball. I don't know.
She didn't want to be in a movie with Madonna.
Oh, I would never guess that.
No. I thought this was like fake at first, so I read more into it. And she was apparently quoted as saying that Madonna was stunt casting and she didn't want to be associated with something like that that would cheapen the movie.
Huh.
Yes. And apparently, years later, decades later, Deborah Winger has stood by this and said that she made the right decision if you look at how Madonna's acting career has turned out.
There are some thoughts I have on this for later in the movie,
Fair.
but let's stand by your decision. Sure, I'm happy we have Gina Davis.
I'm very happy we have Gina Davis. Madonna is fine for the role she was cast in. Like,
I agree.
she's believable. I don't know what else to say. There is a lot of stuff I read about Madonna apparently not being great to work with, though.
That I can understand for some reason. I don't know her personally, but I can see it.
Hmm.
It's fitting for the character she is too. Like feel like that transcribes well her personality with that character.
But no, I read that the town where they filmed the World Series, there's like a quote unquote World Series for the Women's League at the end of the movie. Thought they filmed in Indiana, it said, and the whole like the hotel staff where they were staying, like everyone thought she was so rude and she wouldn't like come out of her room. But they also have people they have letters that she wrote to like friends back in New York at the time, basically talking about how she was kind of living in a shithole and she couldn't wait to be in New York.
Huh.
And I mean, if she had said that about Cleveland, I would have not loved it. So I get it.
Yeah.
Um,
Again, though, it kind of fits the character she's playing. So
that's, yeah, maybe she was just in character the whole time.
she's method acting.
Yeah.
Sure.
Supposedly, all the fans that were in the stands were like unpaid extras. And for a lot of the time that they were there, it takes a while to set up shots and you have to do multiple takes. So between shots, a lot of the actors would like try to entertain people because like they weren't getting paid to be here. So like Rosie O'Donnell will do some stand up, Tom Hanks would do I guess also stand up, I don't know, impressions. They wanted Madonna to come sing some songs for the people and she thought that was crazy. So apparently the whole cast took turns impersonating Madonna and singing her songs.
That's even better.
Which yes, I would have loved to see that.
I wish there was footage of that.
I know, me too. That's totally something that I think if it was made today, you would have had that at the very least, like posted to social media.
Oh, absolutely.
So, if not a DVD extra, if we even do those anymore. So, moving on, John Lovitz just appears as a scout trying to get Dottie to join this women's baseball league. He is in the movie for such a short time, but I love his character.
Great. So great.
Yeah.
He does that 40s, 50s like quick talking quips that I love so much. What
Yes.
I feel like it works better when people are in at the time, 92, modern times,
Mhm.
doing it from the past than like when actually watching it from the past. I don't know. Like he just does those lines really well. The whole scene where he's trying to convince the girls to go play baseball in the barn, every line he says is cracking me up. He's like got an answer for everything.
But yeah, he's so rapid fire, like he's so quick-witted, and the whole gist of this is that he wants Dottie, he doesn't care about Kit. He's trying to talk to them while they're milking cows on their farm, and the girls are very much like, "Okay, we did our game, time for farm chores," and, like, Dottie does not care that this man is here. So Kit comes up to him before he turns to leave and is like, "You can take me, I'll play for you." And he says, "I don't want you, I want her. You can go back and climb under the cow."
Yeah.
And poor Kit. And then I don't remember what sets this up, but they say something insulting to him, or maybe I'm sure Dottie says something insulting to him. And he says, "Ooh, that one hurt. So long, milkmaids."
Yeah. Goodbye.
Yep. And obviously, we talked about The Wedding Singer last season. It's hard not to compare his character in both because he's just kind of an ass in both of them.
Yeah.
But it's for him in particular, I don't mind that he's maybe playing the same character in a sense all the time because he's really funny.
Yeah. He's great at doing those singers that kind of, if you're not paying attention, should get under someone's skin. Like they're insulting, but he does it so quick and they're always a retort.
Hmm.
The whole scene's funny to me, and also when they've convinced themselves to want to play baseball, or I guess Kit convinces Dottie. They get on the train and they're like, "Oh, we made it, we made it." It's like, "Oh, did you tell the cows you'd write?" And then it just cuts. It cuts to like another scene.
Yeah. I read that his role actually got cut significantly. They actually did not have him being so mean-spirited, I guess, for most of it. The original cut of this movie was like 4 hours long,
Oh,
right? And from what I understand, Penny Marshall was really there was nothing she really wanted to cut, nothing she felt like she could let go of, but I guess when they tested the movie for audiences, people laughed so hard at his meaner lines that they cut his role down to just be like the mean quips,
yeah,
which, to be fair, we don't know what else he did. So we
right,
don't know, but I think it works. We're introduced to Marla's character as, John Lovitz tours the country, like scouting girls. Marla is probably like the best hitter we see through the whole movie, right?
yeah.
We could argue that. But she's like a plain Jane, and they make such a big deal of her appearance, and I hate it. Like, I hate the way John Lovitz reacts when he sees her face the first time. He's like, "Oh."
It's so hard not to laugh though.
I know. No, I mean, like, it's funny, but just like poor Marla, there's
Poor
nothing
Marla.
wrong with her. And then the way her dad has to be like, "She doesn't have a mom. I raised her like a boy." Like, it's
Yeah,
so stupid.
yeah. It is nice though when Lovitz goes to leave and the girls, Kit and Dottie, they like throw their suitcases down. Like, no, she's good. We're taking her with us.
Yes, I am very much here for like the female solidarity of this
Yeah.
movie. Hmm. Marla, this was the actress's first movie. I did not realize she was Broomhilda in Robin Hood Men in Tights.
Oh my god. Yes.
Yeah. It's like I knew she looked familiar, but I was like, is it just because I've seen this movie so many times?
Right.
Yeah. And she was also in Dracula Dead and Loving It.
This makes sense to me now. Yes.
Yep. Another subgenre of movies we need to go watch.
Oh
Go catch
yes.
up on.
I cannot wait.
But also in keeping with the jokes about her appearance that are also really funny. When they do the newsreel, like introducing the players for the women's league, they're like doing close-ups on all these girls and showing them like powdering their noses and all this stuff. And then they're like, and here's Marla so and so. And it's like this really far off shot, and you just see
Yeah.
her kind of like waving from the outfield.
Yeah.
um
That always gets a hard chuckle out of me.
yeah.
And Marla Hooch just waves.
Yeah. Yeah. This idea that, she's more of a tomboy and therefore like unattractive. We kind of get this again with Rosie O'Donnell's character Doris. There's a point where they're all on the bus together and she shows one of the other ladies a picture of her boyfriend, and I can't remember if the lady says he's cute or not, something like that. And then she's like, "Well, he treats me really badly and all this stuff." And she just doesn't have anything nice to say about him. And the other girl says, "Well, why are you with him?" And she's kind of like, "This is the only guy I could get." Cause like, she doesn't say the word tomboy, but basically, like, I'm more sporty and I'm not as thin and yada yada. And I don't know. She ends that with tearing up the picture and saying, like, "So long, Charlie." And
Yeah.
personally, yes, Doris,
Hmm.
yes. But I guess I could see this being more of a concern back when gender roles were a little stricter. Like, I keep forgetting this is supposed to be the 40s.
Right. Well, there's that
Mhm,
elephant in the room, but
mhm,
and we see when the girls after the tryouts and they make the team, the outfits are revealed, and it's a little skirt
mhm.
and whatnot, and they are selling a product. It's
Yeah.
part of their marketing, so
Mhm,
feel a certain way about that. But yeah, that's what it is, unfortunately. So the Dorises and Marlas, they need to get by on their skill more than
mhm.
anybody because they're not just a pretty face in the field.
Yeah. Oh, I do love, though, when going all the way back to John Lovitz, when he leaves Kit, Dottie, and Marla, at tryouts. He's like, "Okay, bye." And they're just like, "Wait, you're leaving?" And I just like how attached they got to this like grumpy man. But I get it too, because I don't think any of them had ever really been away from home,
Right.
especially Marla and Kit. Maybe Dottie, because she's already married at this point. She's just living back home because her husband's off serving. But I mean, I could just see them being like, "You were the one who told us what to do, and now you're
Yeah.
leaving."
Now you're just dropping us off.
Yeah. I love the introduction of May and Doris, which is Madonna and Rosie O'Donnell. Like, immediately, they have such good banter. I remember them being friends in real life, like, before I even saw this movie, and I can kinda see why. Like, it just seems like a very natural back and forth. I also forgot what a huge cultural icon Rosie O'Donnell was in the '90s.
Yeah. She had her own
Like,
talk show at one point.
the talk show with the koosh balls? I haven't thought about that in such a long time.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
she was really into Tom Cruise,
Yes.
because that was before she had come out as gay, and that was such a big deal, like, being gay was such a big deal.
Yeah.
Um,
The koosh ball.
yeah,
Uh,
that
but I
was
also remember her from like the Flintstones movie.
oh, yeah, that too. Yeah, I was trying to remember, like, why she was famous before the talk show, and then, like, obviously, I know she was an actress, but I couldn't really name many movies that she was in off the top of my head, but yes, Flintstones.
Heck yeah.
We see another, I don't know if it's a newsreel, maybe a radio broadcast. To quote, "Careers in higher education are leading to the masculinization of women with dangerous consequences to the home, the children, and our country." And all I could think is that some things never change.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. And obviously a great juxtaposition because we hear this voiceover as the girls are practicing baseball.
Hmm.
One of the coaches at the tryouts is Scully's dad from the X-Files.
I don't remember Scully's dad from the X Files. I remember watching the X Files, but I think it would be so like back then, like the show, especially Fox, was known for like not putting things in order. That's why a lot of shows got canceled, unfortunately. So I remember watching X Files. I remember like it being creepy, but and then the only storyline I can think of is Mulder's like quest for aliens and his sister. But other than that, I don't remember these
Okay.
references to her dad and this other one you have here.
There is one particular episode in season 1 where Scully's dad dies,
Mm,
but the whole, supernatural part of the episode is that in the beginning, She Scully's fallen asleep on the couch. She wakes up and she sees her dad like sitting in the chair across from her, like trying to say something to her, but there's no sound coming out of his mouth. And then the phone rings saying her dad died. So it's kind of like she had seen a ghost.
Ah.
Um, or like he was coming to say goodbye or something. But I'm pretty sure he was only in that one episode. But I remember her waking up to
Ah.
seeing her like ghost dad. This is how I remember who the actor was. Okay.
Got it.
The ghost type episodes always scared me when I was a little kid. Taya Leone has a very small part. I don't think she ever speaks in this movie, but you see her as just another one of the ball players. I think you see her a few times, like swinging a bat or whatever. She went on to marry Mulder in real life.
Oh,
And there was an episode in one of the later seasons where in the show, like someone decides to make a movie based on Scully and Mulder, and Taya Leone is the actress who's going to play Scully in this like movie within the TV show.
right.
And I specifically remember a bit where she's asking Scully how she runs with heels on, and you see her then in the background running back and forth in heels so she could practice, but she's
That's
just like
awesome.
zooming by like constantly. But yeah, I also at the end of tryouts, there's that little bit where one of the girls doesn't know if she made it or not because she can't read and like obviously doesn't want to admit that she can't read. And I just, again, I love women helping women. I love the camaraderie. I love that, someone comes up and helps her out. But also, I think for me, that really drives home, I guess, like how sheltered all these women were, assuming most of them are not from big cities. Like, I think maybe May and Doris are supposed to be from New York.
Seems like it at
But
least.
yeah, but this is probably the first time a lot of them have ever left home, like I said. And the idea that if, they were on the poorer side, they probably weren't even like attending school.
Yeah, I mean, we literally see our main characters on a dairy farm.
Hmm. Right. I should have brought this up when you mentioned their outfits. When they do bring the outfit out and show it off, and it's a skirt, it's a short skirt. You hear someone say, "I can't wear that. My husband will kill me."
Right. Well, that's a funny thing too about the time is most of these girls wouldn't wear that not playing baseball. Like and I think if they were
Yeah.
to have, they would have been talked about.
Yeah, I agree with that because it's like a thing that May wears like nail polish and lipstick.
Yeah. When they're talking about the dresses and Kit's complaining about it because she's like, I can't slide in that or whatever. And Gina Davis says, I got to squat in that thing because she
Yeah.
is playing a catcher.
Hmm.
I thought that was pretty good.
Yeah.
And then they
Um,
do like right from here they do they do tryouts
mhm.
and they get picked. And instead of doing a montage of the team Dottie and Kid is on, it's just I think the whatever the city is, something Peaches, I forget the city name.
Rockford Peaches.
Rockford, yes. Rockford Peaches. Instead of showing them training, a little montage on the Peaches, we get a I don't know how to be a lady montage, I guess. They're
Yep.
again, we're
Like
selling
a
a product.
makeovers, manners,
Hmm.
pronunciation. Yeah.
The one of the first things we see are them like I don't what do you call that when they're going across the floor and they're like waving their arm they're
I
like
think it's
saunter and something and they're all
yeah,
trying to be graceful and Marla is not and she's just like her arm is going up and down in the air like
very
some sort of
stiffly.
lever. Yeah.
I I think they're just trying to explain how a lady enters the room and then
Hmm.
moves around the room. I can't help thinking right now of Bridget Jones's Diary when Bridget's trying to get ready for this big like it's it's more than an office party. It's like a big author that they work with and it's like a big book release. And she read somewhere or she's told by someone that she has to like circulate throughout the room and start interesting conversations with people. And that's all I can think of is like, but this is how you move through the room, I guess, with your arm.
Yeah, except if you're Marla.
So yeah, poor Marla, jeez. Mentioning Bridget Jones's Diary, all I can think of is other movies that have done this kind of thing, like Princess Diaries and Miss Congeniality, where
Yeah,
like, okay, like you have to go learn how to be a lady now, and they make a point to say one of the ladies like eyebrows. There should be two, and I'm pretty sure they use that line in the Princess Diaries.
that's awesome.
Hmm.
Yeah, that's when after they've done their training of how to be a lady, they literally are like standing in a line, and I don't know what you call this main lady, but the lady in training or doing the training like goes up and like judges all the girls like superficially. I'm like, Jesus.
Hmm. Don't they say she's still like not happy with Marla?
Yeah, she doesn't say anything.
And she's
She's
like,
like,
maybe she's just like, oh.
oh no. So poor Marla, yes, but she steals some scenes because of this character. Like I said, when they're sauntering through and she's just like very awkward and not graceful. And then they do this
Mhm.
line up and then like cut and trim her hair, shave her double eyebrows, blah 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 blah.
Mhm.
And I get to Marla, poor Marla, and she goes, let's hope for a lot of night games.
Oh yeah. Oh, poor Marla. But you know what? Marla gets married before all of them, so joke's on all them.
Right.
Or I guess Dottie's already married, but you know what I mean. But yeah, so we are introduced to Tom Hanks's character Jimmy, who is going to be their coach. Basically, it sounds like he became an alcoholic and ruined his baseball career.
Yeah.
I should also point out because he's having this conversation with the Harvey Bar owner, who is played by Gary Marshall, who is Penny Marshall's brother.
Uh,
Yeah, they seem to work together a lot because Penny Marshall is in movies as an actress as well. If you remember in Hocus Pocus, that couple that whose house they kind of like break into because they think that the man is the actual devil. That's Gary Marshall, and then his wife is Penny Marshall, the one
nice.
who kicks them out and calls Sarah Jessica Parker tart face. But yeah, Harvey says to Jimmy, "You could have kept playing if you would have just laid off the booze." And I all I could think of is, "I told you to quit gambling, Art."
He's
From
coming back to that.
I know, from To Kill an Irishman.
I get I get the comparison there. I will
Mhm.
have I mean my only argument would be this is the first time we see Tom Hanks in the movie
Mhm.
and they get a lot of background in kind of a quick exposition like
Yes.
word vomit from the Willy Wonka character.
Took me a second to understand what you were saying.
So yeah, it's kind of like on the nose, but we don't know these facts about Tom Hanks's character until Penny Marshall's brother says it. So I get it, but we wouldn't know that until he said it anyway. Where with the line that you love so much, it's we already know what's happening. We've been told this several times.
Mhm. Yeah, I do think this whole scene, the dialogue is a lot more informative, and we need it to get this quick background on Tom Hanks's character.
Hmm.
But just the way it is said is so like it's like the same type of line.
Oh yeah,
I
it's
don't
I
know.
think part of it's the delivery.
Yes, yeah.
You would have just kept off the booze, Art.
Jeez.
Yeah, I get
Um,
it.
you want to go
But yeah,
into
and he like lies to him, says like he's done drinking, and then he like plows through the locker room,
Mhm.
eight sheets to the wind.
Mhm.
We have a funny scene of him like peeing for a very long time,
Yep.
and it's very awkward too because all these girls are like, "How long is he peeing for?" What? And they're like timing him, but like one of those minor characters, maybe it's Rosie O'Donnell, but it's like it's said off screen. But he comes back to the team, and someone's like, "Boy, that was some good peeing."
Yes, I think it is her character.
Like what the
Um,
hell?
so I think I maybe read this wrong, but when he tells Gary Marshall that he's done drinking, I guess my impression was like, yes, he obviously was lying, but because his job is to now coach a women's baseball team, which he obviously is not happy about. Like I think he even tries to turn it down. He
Yeah.
is just like, "Fuck it, I'm gonna be drunk for this whole season." Like, I don't know if he actually had stopped drinking, and then he's like, "Well, if this is the only job I can get being sober, then forget that." But
I felt that he was lying,
okay.
and it's the only job he can get for being, a washed up alcoholic baseball
Yeah,
player.
fair enough.
And in that scene too, they talked about, if you didn't quit the booze, you'd be a player. He's like, no, it's because of my knee. And
Um,
Marshall retorts with, well, yeah, because you got drunk and jumped out of a hotel window or something like that. So it's like, yeah, I mean, the catalyst was the booze, Jimmy. You couldn't play because you have no cartilage in your knee, but it's because of the choices you made because you were drunk.
I was just gonna say, doesn't he also have an injury? But yes, okay, I
Yeah,
remember all of this now. That scene with him peeing. Apparently, Tom Hanks didn't know how long he was gonna be peeing for. They had like a bucket pouring out like nearby, and they would like stop it and start it again. He had to just like go with it.
they had to react.
Yep.
That's pretty funny.
Yeah, I thought that was good.
So Tom Hanks pees and he has a very unlively kind of like, let's go get him girls because he doesn't give a shit and he's drunk.
Mhm.
And they play their first game, or maybe it's a practice, and there's a small crowd and they're like booing and being mean. So, first of all, why are you there? Like,
Yeah.
whether it's free, I guess if it's free, why not? But if it's
Mm.
paid, which I don't think it was yet, definitely don't be there. And this dude gets up on like the dugout thing and he's making fun of the girls. And my heart just like went out to them. I felt so bad. Like they're
Mhm.
just trying their best, literally, because there's no one else to do it. And
Mhm.
obviously the chocolate company puts it together. And again, it's all about product and business and to make money off of the product
Mhm.
being women's baseball. But also during World War II, like this is baseball is so American, it's our pastime, and it's like we got to keep that going, like keep the people at home with hope, right?
Mhm.
So they're doing their part doing that. And this guy's like hiking up his pants and making fun of him, and then
Mhm.
the shortstop like slips, air quotes, the ball
Mhm.
to home plate and like pegs this guy in the shoulder or comes close to
Mhm.
hitting him. He like gets all scared and falls back, and now the
Mhm.
audience turns on him and is laughing at him. I think that's a
Mhm.
great moment. Like that's what you get, sir. Also, you
Yeah.
shouldn't be standing up there. You're not a player or a crew member.
Yeah. Yeah, and we just have a lot of really fun montages after this of them playing. Apparently, all the actresses really had to play, and they did not have stunt doubles.
That's awesome.
If you remember the one scene where one of them, it's just like a quick shot, one of them gets like a huge bruise on her thigh from sliding in. That was real.
Oh wow,
And according to the actress, it took over a year for you to not be able to see any trace of that bruise anymore.
wow. I mean, it's
Isn't that
huge. It's
insane?
like
It's
the size of her
huge, yeah.
whole leg.
Mhm, like her whole upper leg, yeah. The only thing that was a stunt double was Gina Davis sliding into the splits. She could do the splits. That was really her in the still afterward, like where she's like still in the splits and like catching the ball, but she couldn't slide into them. So that's the only thing that is not the actual actress. But apparently everyone had to play baseball to the point where I read that Marissa Tomei sent in an audition tape of her playing baseball with Joe Pesci on the set of My Cousin Yeah, on on the set of My Cousin Vinny.
She would have fit the cast really well too.
Mhm. So somewhere between all these montages of the girls playing baseball, we meet Stillwell, who is the son of one of the players. According to her, her husband is too busy reading the want ads to have the kid at home without her. So his solution is for Stillwell to be at all the games and also travel to all the away games.
Yeah, annoying. This kid's a pain in the ass. First of all, Stillwell. I don't know. That must be a name from that time, but what the hell kind of name is that?
Yeah, I don't know. And also his mom always calls him Stillwell Angel, which
Yeah.
is worse.
Yeah. I totally can relate and am rooting for the scene in the bus where Madonna grabs a baseball bat and says, I'm going to kill your son. Literally chases him off the bus.
Mhm.
But most specifically in this scene, too, he puts his stupid little fingers, grubby hands, covered in chocolate, and plays like guess who's behind you to the bus driver. He's like he's covering the bus driver's eyes and they like crash into a
Mhm.
ditch. And then the bus driver quits, literally walks off the bus
Mhm.
to where I don't know. They're in the middle of nowhere, America. But yeah, I would chase that kid off the bus too.
Yeah, and that particular part where he's covered in chocolate, he makes me think of Augustus Gloop.
Absolutely, 100%.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
This also leads to a little bit where Jimmy has apparently slept through all of this, right? Because he's probably drunk. But the den mother that kind of travels with them is kind of like the chaperone for the girls. She's a mess because she's running around trying to like get the bus out of the ditch, trying to convince the bus driver not to leave. And she's all dirty and frazzled. And Jimmy wakes up and sees her and says he loved her in The Wizard of Oz.
Yep. This is after he kisses her and then
Yes.
freaks out, and then Jimmy ends up being the driver. So, whoops.
Yeah, whoops. We should probably start a tally of like Wizard of Oz references per season.
Mm, maybe I already did.
Oh, I like it. I love this scene where they sneak out of their hotel and they go to a bar together.
Yeah.
And Marla's up there singing, and that's where she meets her husband.
Yep. She sings as well as she apparently looks, but I,
Oh,
it's well, she's also like drunk, but it's like this
of
real like
course.
deep sounding and not in a good way. But
Yeah.
this scene's fun. I don't know if the dance scene is necessary, but it's very fun. Like it shows that the
Mhm.
girls are human. They're going out. They're doing things they want to do, even though they're supposed to be like in bed and tucked in because they have a game tomorrow. It's also like fun and flashy, and it's
Mhm.
just Madonna is her character is so cool to me in this movie. She knows all these cool
Mhm.
dance moves. She wears lipsticks
Mhm.
and nail polish. She smokes. We find out too in the sequence that May and Doris know each other because she used to dance at Doris's dad's club,
Mhm.
where Doris was also the bouncer.
I love that.
So like you see like the juxtaposition between Madonna and Rosie O'Donnell,
Mhm.
and they even play that up in the movie. Their roles back at home.
Mhm.
I don't know. I just think it's really funny and well done. And when they're doing the dancing too, Rosie O'Donnell's character Doris comes in and she's dancing with the guys too, but they're doing the same moves. Only Madonna's doing the female role. The guy's picking her up and twirling him around and flipping him. And Rosie O'Donnell does that to a guy. And she comes back to the bench and she's like chugging a beer. She's like, "Did you see that? I flipped that guy." And it's so great. I love it so much. It's hilarious.
Mhm.
Talking about montages in the several of them,
Mhm.
you had mentioned the girls doing their own stunts, and you mentioned the famous split sketch that starts this montage of these girls doing all these cool like tricks.
Mhm.
And this is after the meeting where Ira, the guy with the glasses, he's trying to
Mhm.
save women's baseball because they're trying to shut it down because it's not making money. And he's like,
Mhm.
"You gotta do fun stuff, be flashy or whatever." And I have this montage of like the girls catching these awesome catches, these trick shots, behind the back catches, and it just kind of reminds me of modern day Savannah Bananas, the minor league team that is known for basically kind of being like the Harlem Globetrotters of baseball.
I had never heard of this.
Oh, look it up when we're done. It's they just do
Okay.
fun things. They are baseball enthusiasts don't like them because they're very much like outside the box of like
Mm.
baseball, like standard baseball. But
Yeah.
gets the younger kids into it. It's fun, and you
Yeah.
got to start somewhere liking baseball. Why not make it fun for the kids? I don't know. I'm
Mhm.
not either really for or against. I just think they're doing their own thing, and why not?
Yeah. Let people like what they like. I don't know.
Yeah. But this whole sequence kind of reminds me of that because they're doing some off the wall stuff, especially for that time and the fact that they're female players. Like they had to do something to draw attention besides the fact that they were wearing skirts, I guess.
Yeah. On a much more serious note, I did want to mention the really brief moment we get where I understand why they put this in. They had to find a way to illustrate that while this was such an achievement for like these women to be on this team and to have like women's sports in general, it was only white women who were allowed
Hmm.
on the team. There's this really little quick clip where a ball kind of goes out of the gate of the park. You see a few black people watching the game, and one of the black women steps forward, throws the ball back to Dottie, and or I'm sorry, she Dottie's going to catch it. This woman throws it past Dottie to someone who is further away.
Hmm.
And the impression we get is that, she has a really good arm because the player who catches it is kind of like, you could tell like she's kind of like shaking it off. I read that they wanted to do something to nod to that like, yes, it was such a big deal that women were in sports, but it still wasn't just like any woman could be in it. And also I realized just on this rewatch, that these people weren't even sitting in the stands. They probably weren't even allowed to be in the park. They were like standing watching from outside a gate.
Yeah. Yeah, this little clip, it always kind of gives me some goosebumps because it's the reaction that everyone has after this woman throws the ball.
Mhm.
And like there's like literally a literal nod of approval to the players and the players back to this woman.
Mhm.
And a lot is said without being said, like,
Yes.
the civil thing is happening, they can't play, but they're here with them, supporting them,
Mhm.
the white women playing. But it's really cool because it's like, hey, I see you back, and we're doing our thing, and thanks
Mhm.
for supporting us, and vice versa.
Mhm.
I don't know, it's so quick, but it's so cool, and it says a lot.
Mhm. And Dottie obviously like in her nod to this woman is like recognizing her talent too,
Hmm.
or like
Yeah,
acknowledging that like, yeah, like in a
it,
different world you should be here too.
exactly.
Mhm. You know what? Didn't stop them from calling their husbands up to serve in the war, did it?
No.
No, but okay. On a much lighter note, I love the scene of Marla getting married. All of them are like bridesmaids because you assume because they're all dressed in the same dresses and they're holding their bats up for Marla and her husband to walk under, and it's so sweet.
Yeah, they have like bridesmaids baseball uniforms on or something. It's weird. It's like, also, wouldn't they have the time to just randomly do a wedding in the baseball season? I don't know.
That's a good point too. I did think about that because they're traveling around too. So like you assume maybe they get married either where this guy lives, wherever they met him when they snuck out of the hotel, or they go back to Marla's hometown maybe. But you assume there's like travel involved.
Yeah. Speaking of which, it's kind of weird because there's only, I think, 4 teams. And
Okay.
at least at the time, this first season, for at least for the movie. And I don't know, like, how many games are these women playing against the same three other teams? I don't
That's
know.
yeah, that is a good point because I think you're right. I remember there being a little bit between the sisters at the beginning where one of them says like, "Okay, so it's only 64 players or something. Like
Yeah.
only 64 girls make it."
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. But maybe that's why we see Scully's dad so much
Yeah. He's
because they're
such a
constantly
one.
playing his
Yeah.
team.
He's one of 4 coaches, and
Yeah,
he's
yeah.
one of 3 that's not Tom Hanks.
Yeah. Yeah. I do kind of like this juxtaposition that like at the end of the little wedding scene with Marla, she does say like, "I'll be back next season, I'll see you ladies next season." And then we learn that Dottie is going to quit and go home once her husband comes back. I don't know. I want people to do what they want to do in
Hmm.
life. Like if Dottie wants to go home and have babies, that's cool. I'm just surprised, I guess. And then maybe that's the point because she's like such a good player. Also, jumping ahead a little bit, I cannot believe she was going to skip out before the World Series.
Right.
I feel like she would have at least finished out the season.
Right. And that's part of the contention with her and Kit is Dottie is a natural gift, and Kit's still
Hmm.
very good, but maybe
Yeah.
not as good. Maybe not as good naturally, and she has to work harder for it. But
Yes.
loves the game, and I feel like Dottie does too. But she's like, feel like she didn't even want to go to begin with, and then she's like, "Well, when my husband comes back, I'm going to go home because I miss him." And again, do what you're going to do, but
Yeah.
do this also. Maybe, I don't know.
Yeah, I realized this wasn't like a thing in the 40s where like you could have a family and also have a hobby. Like that wasn't,
Sure.
you
Yeah.
know. So I realize I'm looking at this through a very different lens where I have a kid and I also do other things I like doing. I
I
also
mean,
feel like her family's farm is pretty far from anywhere they're traveling. I feel like they're kind of all in the Midwest. and
Yeah.
then the farms in Oregon.
Well, also too though, it's like economically, financially, they're making double the amount per week than they were on the dairy farm. So
Hmm.
it might be even smarter to continue baseball to help provide for your family, which I know at the time it was like the guy's job, I guess.
Right.
But we don't know what state he's going to come back home if he comes back home.
Right. Yeah. And you also don't know when he's going to come back home,
Yeah,
too. But that all being said, as the movie goes on, you see this relationship form between Dottie and Jimmy that really seems to be like mutually respectful, even though, like, obviously she looks down on like his more disgusting habits. Although there is that point where she starts chewing tobacco, I think, too, right? Because she
tobacco
does
or
it
sunflower seeds or something.
something.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Because she spits and he's like, oh, that was a good one. Um, But I really feel like in a different movie, they would have pushed this to be a romantic relationship.
Yeah,
And I understand, like, she's married and all that, but I just feel like you don't get many examples of relationships like this, especially male female relationships where it's just like they're friends or they're coworkers, but like they obviously have a great like admiration for each other, but it's not romantic.
right. Yeah, it's actually really refreshing to see.
Hmm. Actually, I read that there was a version of the script where they kiss, and I can't remember if it was Penny Marshall or the studio really pushed to take that out because they didn't want the audience to potentially dislike Dottie's character because they weren't going to
Right,
take her husband away, but they were
right.
still going to have her kiss Jimmy, which like I appreciate. The scene where we find out Betty Spaghetti's husband died.
Ugh, rough.
Yes. First of all, yes, incredibly rough. It is set up so well because right before that, we have this bit of Dottie and Jimmy talking, I want to say on the bus, where she's been worried she hasn't like heard from him in a few weeks. It's like probably the longest she's gone without getting a letter from him. And Jimmy's trying to make her feel better, but then he also says something like, well, but if anything had happened to him, they would have sent one of those official telegrams. And she was like, ugh, like, don't even like remind me. And then we see the guy show up at the official telegram, right? When they're all in their locker room right before a game. And so you already had that tension built in. Would have been tense anyway, but you already have this built in that Dottie's worried about her husband. I also like that the guy who comes to deliver it, there's something wrong with the paperwork. I think he's not sure exactly who it's for or something. And Jimmy
Yeah,
just like gets in there, like grabs it from him because the guy's like an idiot because he's already saying something like, "Oh, I hate delivering these kinds of things," like in front of all the women.
yeah. His lines are very bad.
Yeah, like he's already made the situation so much worse, and Jimmy's not going to let him leave having already scared everyone to death because it could have been any of their husbands.
Right.
But I like this little scene of Jimmy showing how much he has grown to care about the women
Hmm.
because whether it's Dottie's husband or not, like he's like, "No, you can't just come in here. We all know what this letter is," and then just leave without giving it to anyone. And they're all going to be worried. So he kind of roughs the guy up, takes the letter, opens it. And there's this really drawn out shot where he is walking past them, kind of like one at a time. And we end up with him standing in front of both Dottie and Betty Spaghetti, who are sitting next to each other. And it turns out it's Betty's husband, which I would like to point out Betty Spaghetti is Penny Marshall's daughter with Rob
Oh,
Reiner, Tracy
oh,
Reiner.
okay.
Yeah, I had no idea this entire time.
Yeah, I
Um,
just found out.
but apparently this took like days to film this one scene, which I could appreciate because it's a very emotional scene.
Yeah,
But I'm also kind of surprised that I guess I don't know if she was an actress before this, to be fair, but to kind of throw your daughter into a role that's like kind of a becomes a bigger role in the movie because she's the one who loses her husband.
yeah.
So
That shows a lot of faith in your kid.
I guess, yeah.
Yeah, she
When
doesn't
it
do a lot during the movie, but this scene, it's emotionally charged, and like she has to deliver.
Yes, exactly. But I guess she did have like a small acting career. I didn't really see her in anything else really notable when I looked her up. But of course, this happens and they have to go play a baseball game.
Yeah, well, yeah,
Yeah,
the beat goes on.
I guess. Yeah. But right after this, shockingly, Dottie's husband just comes home.
Mm-hmm.
Turns out he has hurt his foot, I believe. And so
Looks
they
foot or leg or something. Looks like it's his foot though.
So they send him back. Her husband is played by Bill Pullman. He is the quote unquote bad boyfriend in Sleepless in Seattle, which, as my husband likes to point out, his only fault is having horrible seasonal allergies, apparently.
Poor
Um,
man.
he sneezes a lot, so she falls in love with Tom Hanks instead. Um,
uh,
but also the very good boyfriend in While You Were Sleeping, which I personally love that movie, and I always think of him as Sandra Bullock's love interest.
hmm. While you were sleepless in Seattle.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Crossover. Yeah.
Look at that. Hmm.
It Bill Pullman, like his character is brief, and I don't know how we're supposed to feel about him. I'll just say how I feel about him. I just find weird that I'm mad that he's returned. They part of the tension in the reveal of Betty Spaghetti's husband being dead was like you mentioned, like in another movie, Jimmy and Dottie would be love interest, and they have this conversation on the bus, and they are getting really close and connected, and he definitely gives her the respect and says you're a good ball player and this and that. Keep in mind, for most of the movie, he thought this was a joke, and he was
Hmm.
drunk half the time. Then we get the letter, and like you're kind of thinking maybe this is what drives her into his arms if her husband's dead, like eventually, potentially down
Oh,
the
yes.
road.
If you think that's where it's going, yeah.
But it doesn't, and then he returns, and you're like, oh man, well now I'm mad at Bob for returning, but not because I care about Jimmy and Dottie's love interest, because there is none, I don't
Hmm.
think, or potentially could be, but because she said that I'm going to quit when my husband comes back. And you're like, you son
Yeah.
of a gun, you could have just stayed over there, put your foot up, had fun,
Hmm.
traveled the world. I don't know. Like, I didn't want to see him come back because I wanted Dottie to continue playing.
Right, because then it's like the end of this adventure for Dottie. And also, like you said, she's made it very clear she's done when he comes back. I was still always surprised that she left, knowing they made it to the World Series. She's still leaving,
Yeah.
not going to play the World Series. She, spoiler alert, she does return.
Yeah.
And yeah, at first, I had the same feeling about her husband where I'm kind of like, I think I don't like you because now Dottie's going to stop playing baseball. But we do see, though, that he is very supportive of her.
Eventually.
Hmm. Yeah, but when they come back for her to be in the World Series, well, first of all, I don't know if it's necessarily his idea to leave. I feel like she's had it in her head this whole time that,
Right. And again, this is my point of view, my
hmm
heart of hearts, like whether it's his fault or not, but he is the catalyst. So like he comes back, she's like, cool, baseball's over. And to your point, like you can't play 3 to 7 more games. Like this is the World Series.
well, right,
You
yeah.
just complete it. Like what are you doing here?
Yeah, she does not strike me as a character that would not finish what she started. That's part of why I'm surprised too.
Yeah,
But like I said, I do really like when she does come back, we see him in the crowd cheering her on. I think at one point he's like bragging that that's his wife. Like,
yeah,
that's what I want to see. I like a supportive husband.
yeah. But I'm mad because it took 7 games for her to come back. She saves the day, or does she? I don't know. We'll find out.
Yeah, I know,
Uh,
right?
Very important point to bring up though is during this or before this, Dottie and Kit have a blowout because in one of the
Oh, yeah.
games, Jimmy asks if she should stay in the game. Kit, that is a pitcher, and Dottie says no, she's done, and Kit gets mad,
Hmm.
and they have a big fight in the locker room. She's like, you're always talking down to me, blah blah blah. And she's like, I made a baseball decision, like grow up.
Hmm.
Like you
Hmm.
pitched the whole game. Like and again, they're playing 3 other teams in rotation. They're playing a lot. So these
Yeah.
pitchers, how many do they have on the team? It's a small team. Her arm's probably tired, and
Yeah.
she's making a sports business on the field decision.
Yeah.
Kid, of course, takes it the wrong way. They fight. I do want to point out real quick in the locker room, we talk about how they keep playing the kid sister thing. Their
Hmm.
names are above the locker rooms, and like Dottie, I forget her married last name, Hamilton or something like that, is like really
Hmm.
nice and cursive, and the other girls' names are all stylized. Kit is just like Kit in like big child chalk letters.
Yeah, that I did notice that.
But this fight ends up being Gina Davis wanting to leave, and Lowenstein stops her. Is like, no, 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 we're about to be the World Series. We're really trying to push women's baseball to be a real thing. This couldn't come in a worse time. She's like, well, forget about tomorrow. You can trade me. What ends up happening is they trade Kit.
Yeah.
Kit gets mad, and they fight at the house. Obviously, go their separate ways because she's on a new team.
Hmm.
Had to bring that up because of the ending.
Yeah, because for the World Series, they're on opposing teams.
Yeah,
Yes.
they're Jimmy and the Peaches are playing Scully's dad and whatever team that is. The yellow team.
Yeah, the yellow team. Yes.
Meanwhile, during the first 6 games, we don't see much of it except for in the locker room before game 7. Alice replaces Dottie as the
Hmm.
catcher.
Hmm.
And in this watch, I couldn't help but notice how much similar Alice in facial features look like kind of Gina Davis.
Hmm.
It's
I
like, did
didn't
they?
notice this.
I don't. Maybe that's coincidence. Maybe it's something I'm looking at the wrong way. I don't know, but I found it funny that they looked very similar in features.
Hmm. I'll make a point to look at Alice next time.
Uh, so yeah, game 7, sister versus sister. Dottie gives a little insider trade information to her pitcher who replaced Kit, and says,
Mhm.
throw him. And that's her job. She's a catcher. She is
Yeah,
supposed to
yeah.
communicate with the pitcher. This is baseball. Throw him high, throw him fast. She can't avoid swinging at him, and she can't hit him. And so it sets up this thing. They were down, now they're up, and so the batter before Kit gets on base sets the tying run, and Kit would be the winning run if she were to hit the ball. She does, and it goes far. It's like an inside the park home run. Oh, actually, should have been a triple. They wave her to stop, and she keeps going because who's at home plate? Big
Hmm.
sister Dottie. And
Yeah.
there's this awesome moment where she charges and runs into Gina Davis. Now,
Hmm.
earlier in the movie, there was a similar play with another team, and this girl plows into Dottie, and she holds onto the ball.
Hmm.
So it's something we've seen, and it's something
Hmm.
we know she can
Hmm.
do. This other player was definitely bigger than Kid Sister Kit. I
Hmm.
want to put that out there.
Yeah.
So she rushes home, knocks into Dottie, and there's a close up of her not gloved hand releasing the ball slowly, and it like rolls out of her hand,
Hmm.
causing the other team to win.
Yeah.
I've read several articles about worst endings in movies, and this is sometimes mentioned.
Really?
Yeah, because like you're if you watch more sports movies, it doesn't matter what it is, but like it's always typically like to get people to care about it, it is the underdog team. You're not watching a movie about like the greatest run in baseball history of the best team ever. It's not exciting unless there's like things behind the scenes we don't know and they show that. Sure, fine. When it
Hmm.
comes to like the game, you want the underdogs to win.
Hmm.
And all these women are underdogs because it's women's baseball in World War II era America. But we are following one team, and for that
Yeah.
one team to not to win, as an audience, it is just horrible. I feel unfulfilled. But talking about your point here, do we talk about whether Dottie dropped the ball on purpose? Those articles, there was a theory about that. So does she come back to game 7 just to let her kid sister win, to validate her kid sister? And if that's true, why? Because A, she didn't do it on her own, and I don't know if you're ever going to tell her, are you going to die with the secret? But B, what
Mhm.
about all the other women on the team? And that's what gets
Yeah.
me so mad. Like you see how upset Madonna is. Doris is like has to be like drawn into the locker room with Tom Hanks. Like it's good game,
Yeah.
good game.
Yeah.
Also, love Doris in this sequence in this game 7. She plays third base, and she's just like they just keep cutting to her yelling at other players in her team when they do something good or bad. It's like, oh, we got one. We're like, it's so baseball to me, and it's so
Mhm.
cool to watch, and it's so believable as Rosie O'Donnell as Doris.
Mhm.
But yeah, the drop ball, man. Ugh, I don't know how it feel torn, and I don't like it.
See, my theory is that if she did drop the ball on purpose, it was a decision made in that moment. It wasn't like she decided to come back and play the World Series just to throw it all away.
I agree.
Okay.
When I said all that, I meant like, what was it for though? If you made that decision,
I
I know it's
see.
a on the spot decision, but like then all this was for nothing anyway. You made the wrong decision.
It was for the love of the game, Joe.
To drop the ball?
No, to come back and play it.
Oh, okay. Just say Jesus. Okay, but still, like I don't know. I don't like it. But then they make up and they're cool, and Dottie is going to go back home for real this time and not come back next season. And then that's to the surprise of Kid Sister Kit, because she was even like, "But you're so good. You're literally the best player in the league, and you're better than me. And it's why we don't get along, essentially."
Yeah.
And she's like, "Well, now you can shine. Bye."
Yeah, like I understand what you're saying that you don't like this ending in terms of the teams and what it means if Dottie did drop the ball on purpose, what that means for like her teammates.
Right.
But I do like this ending between her and Kit. For
Right.
that storyline, I do like this ending that she and Kit leave on a good note, that maybe Kit has kind of shaken something off with this win.
Again, though, as a movie viewer, there
Mhm.
are, I don't know, 10 to 12 women on this team plus Jimmy I care about. I want to see win.
Yeah.
And then we see the other team. I have no emotional contact with them. I have Kit, who I'm kind of mad at now because she's a brat,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
like Tia Leone because I know who she is, what she looks like, and she plays first base on the yellow team. And that's the only one they really show catch or hit besides Kit on the other team.
Yeah.
Don't care if they lose. Kind of want them to lose because who are they to
'Cause
me?
yeah, and 'cause Kit
So
was a
like
brat, yeah.
again, a sports movie, the ending you're supposed to cheer and like I don't know. I guess maybe as a Cleveland fan I should be used to this, but hey, that's why I watch movies to escape realism.
There you go. So after all this, after the World Series, we go back to this reunion that we're having at the Baseball Hall of Fame that we saw a little bit of in the very beginning. I love this little bit where May and Doris are together talking the same way they did when they were younger, and they're trying to figure out if it's Dottie, and they throw a ball at her and she catches it without even really like being aware it's being thrown at her.
Hmm.
And that's pretty much how they met back when they were at tryouts together. So I love this callback. I love that Marla still does her little shrug, so you know it's Marla. Like it's just like amazing to me that these are totally different actresses because they did such a good job casting women who look like the younger women, and the mannerisms are so similar. But
Hmm.
also, apparently, most of these women are the real life ball players from
Which
the
is
women's
awesome.
league, which is awesome. But also the fact that they managed to like find some that's still aligned with these other characters. Like the woman who plays older Doris in particular, she's a real life, former ball player. I think Gina Davis's character and maybe Kit are the only ones who aren't,
Yeah, I
from
can
what I
see that
understand. Yeah.
because they look like
Uh,
actresses. Like I don't know.
mhm.
I don't know how else to describe that. We already
Yeah.
mentioned Gina Davis's character
Yep.
as older Dottie as a younger woman. So yeah,
Yeah, I was
moving
gonna
on.
say
Yeah,
we've already brought her up, so
yeah.
But I do like how, like I said, they use little mannerisms and things to illustrate who everyone is in their older versions. And like even with the men, is it Lowenstein, the guy who was trying to keep the league going? Oh my gosh, I cry at this all the time when they're about to do the ribbon cutting and they say that he should cut the ribbon because he's the one that fought to keep the league going for so long. And when they cut to him, he puts his glasses on so you know it's him because he had those like very like recognizable like thick glasses. And then once they're in the exhibit with all the pictures, John Levison's character stands right next to, like, his picture of him as a younger guy, and he puts a cigar in his mouth, like,
Yeah.
I just love it. I don't care how cheesy this is, like, I cry at it every time.
I get like armful of goosebumps, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And just, like, I think too, this idea, especially as I get older, that, like, there are probably times in my life that have already gone by that I'm gonna look back on the way they look back on this, like college, or like when I was first dating my husband, or like when my kid was a baby, or even like now, I'll look back at when he was a little kid this age. Not that I'm gonna have a whole like, museum exhibit to walk around with photos, but when they run into Stillwell, obviously all grown up, and he talks about how his mom has passed away now, and
Hmm.
Dottie says his mom was such a great lady, and he's like looking back at the pictures of her, like this also just could have been a kid looking back through old pictures of his mom. Like she didn't have to be a ball player. I think it just hits me in a emotional, nostalgic kind of way that this could be anyone just remembering like their glory days, so to speak,
Yeah.
or just like you know, their whole group of friends that maybe have scattered or lost touch. Because obviously, not all of these women kept in touch because, like, they're not sure who everyone is.
We have to mention that Dottie only played that one season. She did not come back.
Right, yes.
And she was coaxed into coming in from her daughter. Like, she didn't want to go
Mhm.
to this either for whatever reason.
Yeah. And also we learned that, oh, shoot, what's her husband's name? I already forgot it.
Bob.
Bob? Oh, yeah, that Bob passed away maybe, like, less than a year ago.
Yeah.
And at the very end of this, we see Kit walk in with, like, all their kids and her grandkids, which is really sweet.
Hmm.
I'm interested in your impression of this, though, because I always got the impression that they weren't really in contact, and I don't know if that's the impression I'm supposed to get.
I don't know how I feel because it feels like both. Because I think maybe what we're supposed to feel is that it was a surprise Dottie went because she stopped playing baseball because of the reactions she's getting from other players. But yeah, when Kit walks in with her family and then like she seems surprised her sister's here, and it did seem like a last minute decision, and it's not like in when does it take place when they're older when the exhibit opens.
I want to say like the 80s, but maybe it's the 90s.
Either way, Dottie's not going to send a text to Kit like change plans. I am showing up today. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, like,
So maybe that kind of vague are they lost touch or not is because everyone's surprised she's there.
mhm.
But there's definitely that feeling. But then you have like her kids saying, "Oh, hi, Aunt Dottie, good to see you." Like it just seemed like so
Right.
casual, not like, "Oh my God, Aunt Dottie's here." And
Yeah, or like they didn't know who she was or something.
exactly, so
Yeah.
it's mixed. I feel, and maybe that's the only part I don't like because I don't. You feel like they're sisters and they're not mad at each other anymore. Although in the locker room, Dottie does. So Kit tells Dottie that she's staying in the city, gonna get a job because she wants to play next year, and she loves city life. And Dottie's like, "We'll make sure you like come home for at least for Christmas and make sure you write."
Mhm.
Again, that leads to the scene at the end where like, did they lose contact?
That's exactly what I was gonna bring up. If there was a situation where, say Dottie went back to Oregon with her husband and that's where she raised her family, and then maybe Kit lived in, I wanna say they're like the World Series supposedly takes place in Wisconsin or
For
something,
Kit,
but still, it's like somewhere in the Midwest. What if Kit ended up, living in a different state, somewhere pretty far? People pretty much wrote letters for a while and that was it. Like, it's not like you had these easy ways to stay in contact necessarily.
yeah, but eventually,
Eventually.
well, even then though, phones existed.
Did people have, like, home phones then?
Maybe in the city. I don't know.
I
Yeah, I
don't
don't know.
know.
I didn't live on a farm in the 50s.
That's the thing too, like, I don't know, maybe Kit living in the city would have something that Dottie doesn't, I don't know, but we are thinking too much of this, but my whole impression of them, like, not being in contact was the way that Kit looks at her, and then Kit being surprised she came, and I guess I just thought, like, it was like, "Oh, good you came because it's so good to see you because I haven't seen you in a while." And to me, it's like, if they had been in contact, would they not have, like, known the other one was gonna be there? Would they not have come together? Like, I don't know, but,
Yeah. And keep in mind, her husband just passed away last winter, so I feel like there was should have been at least some
mhm,
communication, some comforting going on.
right, exactly.
Unless Dottie kind of became like a, I don't want to say shut in, but she seemed like she has closed off a little bit of herself at the beginning of the movie.
Mhm.
Because her daughter's like, "Well, you haven't left the room in days. Like, come on, get out of the house, get out of your room."
Yeah, yeah,
So maybe she was in a state of depression. Maybe Kit hasn't talked to her in months.
fair enough.
Again, these are things I didn't think of watching the scene. I'm just like, "Yep, there they are. Good ending. Feel good about this movie.
Yep,
This is great." But yeah,
yeah,
the facts are there if you go back, I guess, and overthink things as we do.
mhm, as we do. Did you have
Hmm.
anything else you wanted to bring up?
Didn't notice this right away when I was kind of IMDbing it. Harry Shearer is one of the newsreel announcers, famous to me for The Simpsons. He's in a lot of other things,
Mhm.
Spinal Tap as well.
One thing we didn't bring up is when Jimmy's signing that kid's baseball.
Oh yeah, they're going to play the World Series, and this is when Bob just comes back and they're leaving in the car, and Jimmy's like, "Oh, you're not a quitter, you're a ball player, blah blah blah." And then some kid walks up to him, and is like, "Can you sign my ball, Mister Jimmy?" And he signs it, and he gets on the bus, and the kid reads it out loud, and it says, "Don't get the clap, Jimmy."
Yeah. Ah,
uh,
I did wanna point out too, because I mentioned Bob being a supportive husband, there's a little bit of, I think it's Doris's dad is buying a ticket to the World Series, like, right out front for maybe, like, a dollar, which,
mhm.
first of all, love a supportive dad because he talks about how he's gonna take her out to, like, a steak dinner. Second, like, imagine just being able to, like, walk into the World Series, like, buy a ticket the day of, and, like, again, I
Right.
know it's, like, women's sports, so no one cares, but, like,
He was also scalping tickets in the front, so
oh, okay.
there's a difference. But yeah, you women's sports, less people care. Although they had a big audience for the World Series, but the price of admission would be much higher. Yes,
Yeah, but,
I do like the steak dinner thing because earlier in the movie they're in the locker room and something happens. Whether I can't remember if Doris is excited or upset, but at one point she's like, I think she's upset. It's like, I'm so mad I can eat a whole cow. And then later the dad's like, I'm gonna buy her a steak dinner because I'm so proud of her. I
that's
was like,
funny.
yeah,
Yeah. So did the movie hold up for you?
yeah. Like a lot of good underdog sports movies that are done
Mhm.
well. It's hard not to like root for the underdogs. Obviously, cheer. Like I said, there are times where I'm getting goosebumps. I'm laughing at the quips, John Lovitz, even like Madonna and Rosie O'Donnell. And so, yeah, going back to Madonna real quick about I forget the other actress's name that didn't want to be with her.
Deborah Winger.
Sure, because the rest of her acting career may not have been so great. I don't know. I mean, she's a performer and not an actress, but I think she did great in this movie. She's so believable as this character. There is a scene when Ira Lowenstein comes and wants Dottie to do an interview, and he kind of is transparent. It's like, we're not doing good. They're trying to shut us down. We need to do something. This is before the montage where they're doing all the trick shots and whatnot. And Donna has a little speech about how she used to dance for nickels at this club and she's not going back to that. You can't take this away from me. And she gets like super emotional and is shouting
Mhm.
and crying. And I think it's great. I think it's fantastic.
Yeah. No, I think she was, really perfect for her role,
Hmm.
but I guess if she had never been in anything before, I could kind of see someone who took themselves as more of a serious actress thinking like, "Oh, you're just throwing this pop star in here for some stunt casting." But also, I feel like we've seen enough to know, like, sure, some people can't act, whatever, but you could also throw some pop stars into movies and they'll be perfectly fine because it's still
Yeah,
performing. So,
exactly.
whatever. I heard Deborah Winger is a bit difficult to work with. So,
It seems like it. Yeah.
but yeah, this movie definitely held up for me. I just get so into it. I was so emotional. Like you said, it's some parts are so funny, but then, I said I always cry at the end. I get so involved with all the characters, even though I know everything that's going to happen to all of them. I actually thought this could have been on my honorable mentions for Comfort Watch, actually. So I wanted to point out the famous Tom Hanks quote that we didn't mention this whole discussion. There's no crying in baseball.
How did we skip that?
I don't know. We just sometimes we get on to other things.
Yeah,
But that's something that has like stood the test of time. That quote, I would bet that that gets quoted about baseball and people probably don't even realize it's from this movie.
100%. Yeah,
Yeah. I'm trying to even remember why the woman was crying in the movie. Was it just because they lost or something?
he yelled at her.
Yeah, well, I know he yelled at her, but why was she? Oh, okay. She was crying because
She,
he yelled at
yeah, yeah,
her.
yeah. She is in the outfield and she keeps forgetting to hit the cutoff woman when throwing it to
Hmm.
infield, and he was giving her a hard time.
Yeah,
It's like one of the earlier scenes when he's actually trying to coach, and he's just like berating her, and
yeah. Attempting to coach.
yeah,
This is the highest grossing baseball movie of all time.
I can see that. I mean, Rockstar cast.
Yeah, I was surprised at first, just considering how people feel about women's sports in general. But yeah, this is a huge cast. Even for the time it came out, this was a huge cast. So,
Hmm.
and now I feel like it's a classic in a lot of ways. So,
Oh yeah,
the scene on the bus where Jimmy is drunk and wakes up, mistakes the den mother character for like a girl he's in bed with, and they kiss. That was nominated for Best Kiss at the MTV Movie Awards.
that's awesome. I remember watching a bunch of MTV Movie Awards, and it's like this is an example why, because they didn't take themselves too seriously,
Hmm.
but not in a way where it was annoying. Like they leaned into the funny and the weird, and
Yeah.
like it was like, oh, there's the kiss on a movie, and it was hilarious. We're gonna put it. We're gonna nominate it.
Yeah.
Back when MTV was still fun for me to watch.
Yeah. The only memory I have of the MTV Movie Awards is when Rachel McAdams and Ryan Gosling won Best Kiss for The Notebook. And I don't think they were publicly dating yet. I could be wrong, but they made a whole big deal of getting up on stage and far apart from each other. And she ran to him and like jumped in his arms and they reenacted the kiss. And they were really playing to their audience. They knew what people wanted to see.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah. There was a TV show spinoff, much like Clueless. It was on CBS, premiered 1993. The only recurring characters were Marla and Betty Spaghetti.
Interesting choices.
Yeah, only aired 5 episodes, so did not last as long as our TV spinoff of Clueless.
No.
No. There was another TV show, came out in 2022 on Amazon. I thought it was pretty popular. I thought it had done well in the ratings, but they canceled it after one season.
Hmm.
So what do I know? But
This is the first time hearing about it.
oh, okay.
Yeah.
But I know the Amazon show was a different team, different storyline. It borrowed the premise from the movie, but not really any of the characters, it seems. Speaking of such, the real Rockford Peaches, their baseball field still exists in Rockford, Illinois. None of this movie was filmed there, but obviously, the girls play for the Rockford Peaches in the movie. It's still got this status as like a place for fans of the movie to gather for like anniversaries of the movie, and you know some of the women who actually played in the league would appear, and meet
That's
and greets
cool.
and stuff like that. Yeah, and it's I want to say it's considered like a historical site for the town. From what I read about it, it is like pretty run down because I'm sure it wasn't like taken care of right off the bat, right? Like no one knew there would be this continued interest in the women's baseball league. But I think the city has like formed like a nonprofit or some sort of like community group around it to like keep up the stadium or the ballpark rather. It's not a stadium.
I would think that women's baseball would be kind of like how people look at minor league baseball. Like, still have the popularity, at least for a few years, obviously, but maybe not as big of a fandom as like the majors.
Well, we would love to hear your thoughts on A League of Their Own, as well as your own favorite summer movies. You can find us on Instagram at Back Through the Lens Pod and on Facebook at Back Through the Lens. You can also email us at backthroughthelenspodcast@gmail.com. If you're listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, please leave us a rating and review. It's the best way to support our show.
If you enjoyed our show today, please give us a like and follow for updates on new and future episodes. Our show is produced by our hosts, Rachel Campbell and myself, Joe Siomick, with additional help and support from Peter Telep of LPV Productions. Peter, Rachel, and I are also executive producers. Our awesome logo is brought to you by Tom Fracci, and our wonderful theme song is by Matt Tarek. Thanks for listening, and stay tuned for more trips into our movie watching past on Back to the Lens. Fucking Stella.
Stella's the worst kid on the planet.
Ooh, got him.